to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a baller.
Welcome in. It's Wednesday, November 6th, here on the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined by Matthew Betz and Jason Moore.
Howdy doody.
Well said, Jason. Well
I'm
said.
sorry. I don't know what that was.
That's fine. It's fine. People liked it. Exciting day yesterday in the NFL, boys. Lots of trades went down. Some that are fantasy relevant. The big time players move. So trade deadline in the NFL, trade deadline in Dynasty League coming up. It's basically the same.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of leagues. I know our league of record. We used to try to time up the fantasy league trade deadline with the NFL trade deadline because we were a keeper league. We wanted it to come a little earlier so people didn't just get to sell off when they knew they weren't in the playoffs. But I would say most leagues, you have not reached your trade deadline yet. Just the NFL has. But, yeah, a little bit of fantasy relevance on the trade deadline.
I'm trying to stir up conversations in my Dynasty leagues because people are holding strong so far, saying, I don't want to really give up anything. I want to hold on to my assets, but I also want to, contend. And so I'm trying to stir the pot in a couple of my leagues. Just say, hey, if you want this player, if you don't want to have filth at running back, then come trade with me. And people are holding to it. It's almost like people want both. They want the best of both worlds. They want to have their picks, and they want to compete, and it doesn't work that way sometimes, people. So trade with me is what I'm telling you.
Kyle, I have terrible news for you. You missed the window, dude. You missed the window on Kareem Hunt, brother. We all saw the Isaiah Pacheco updates, and you're floating him out there in Dino Jr., even though you had offers, multiple offers, for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. So I hate to tell you that I think you missed. You got greedy.
No, I don't know. I mean, I will say this. He missed out on the window of capitalizing and getting a lot because I don't think you're going to get a ton for him. In fact, if I was a Kareem Hunt manager now, I'm probably holding on, or I'm talking to the Pacheco manager because he might overpay a little bit more. I was in our league of record. I have been the Pacheco manager, and I was trying to get Kareem Hunt for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the news coming out, I was trying to drive down the price, but I do not believe for 1 second that Pacheco is coming back in 2 weeks from now to strong, full volume, and that Kareem Hunt is, now just going away. I don't think that's happening. By the end of the year, by the playoffs, Isaiah Pacheco will be back. He'll be running the show. But I don't actually think that that's, I dug deep because of my personal investment on this, listening to how Andy Reid was talking about it. You're still a couple weeks out from real practice, and then once you're practicing, are you weeks out from a workload? So at that point, we're in fantasy playoffs.
See, Jason did the right thing. He did his research on all the issues. He took the fake news that you threw out there. He threw it in the garbage. And this is just perfect timing, Jason, for you to make an offer on this podcast for a player that could really bolster you and a former member of this team. I want you to remember that. This guy is...
Are you talking about our Dino Jr.?
Yeah.
That's where Kyle was trying to trade Kareem Hunt. And you know what, Jason? I was setting this up so that I could actually get Kareem Hunt for cheaper off of Kyle. And you just ruined it.
Yeah, don't do that, Kyle. Don't do that. I mean, we're here to give the listeners good advice, and so y'all can keep your petty squabbles to yourself. Also, why would I need Kareem Hunt? I'm 8-1 with J.K. Dobbins double touchdowns on my bench, bro.
What could go wrong in the next couple weeks?
Nothing. We are the team of destiny. We've won 3 of the last 4 championships. Nothing is going. Mike and I's team will win the championship this year. And you know what's crazy is you both know it. You both already know it.
What's hilarious about the Pacheco thing, I don't know if Josh is listening currently, but Josh has reached out to me. Jeremy has reached out to me. Several people in Discord have reached out to me. They're like, dude, what is the deal with Pacheco? So it's really, I think, a good conversation for just in general. But yeah, you're right, Jason. Like historically, the Chiefs, they will slow play injuries. We've seen this a ton with other players in their career. So, and look, they're undefeated. Like they don't.
And Kareem Hunt's dominating.
They do not need Pacheco until the playoffs, the actual NFL playoffs.
If Kareem Hunt was struggling. And, all of a sudden he's looking, old busted. He's looking like Javonte Williams out there, and Perine's not getting it done. And they can't get the running game going, and they look like the Dallas Cowboys, and they're like, okay, we got to get Pacheco back. That's one thing. But Kareem Hunt has just been a workhorse feature back who has dominated defenses. I mean, the game this week, he put that team on his back and just hard-nosed, yard after yard after yard, helped win that game. So this is a team with only one thing on their mind, a three-peat of a Super Bowl, not get Pacheco back for your fantasy playoffs.
Does this Kareem Hunt run make you feel better about your Pacheco, my guy call? Like, okay, like the system, everything I'm saying, they were going to give it to one guy, and they were heartbroken that Pacheco's hurt, but like, I don't know. I look at this as like, man, this running game is so much more valuable than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I am fully confident. Like, my biggest regret this season in our league of record, I was sitting there and there was a clear decision to be made, and it was a tough decision. Myself and my co-manager, we debated it back and forth and back. Isaiah Pacheco or Derrick Henry. Those were the two players we decided on. I took Pacheco, and after 2 weeks, I was pretty happy. He was outscoring Derrick Henry. He looked awesome. And you look at what Kareem Hunt has done since joining the team, you say this role and how he was utilized, he was going to be a top 5 running back. I'm very confident in that. But it also hurts because he was my guy and he got injured, and now because of Kareem Hunt, he's not going to come back and be the savior of the end of fantasy football seasons, I don't believe. So I take a giant L on Pacheco being a my guy, even though obviously we cannot predict injuries. It just sucks.
I wish you could do your job better, Betz. That's the part of injury forecasting that you have none of the algorithms. Nothing worked out so far, and your job security is on the line, because that's the one part that we don't have.
Yeah, Betz, you're supposed to tell us every player that's going to get injured so that we avoid them before the injury.
I mean, come on. You got to subscribe to the Patreon. That's where you get that information. It's exclusive, behind the paywall, so that's why.
Just so you can, like, in all caps, tell everyone "told you so." Like that's what you want to be able to do.
Were you listening, Kyle? Were you listening in August, in July, in June, when I told you that in week 10 of the NFL season? I don't want to put this out there in case something actually happens this week.
Yeah,
somebody's gonna clip you. Totally. All right, we're moving on.
Weekly Rewind.
Every week, we rewind the film and we do a deep dive on a player just to start things out. And I happen to have a player here that I wrote it in, and then I realized I have done Caleb Williams for the Weekly Rewind 2 times already this season. And
you're making it 3?
Yes, because
you better have learned something.
You
haven't learned anything, have you?
So if you look at the matchups this year, he had a little stretch from weeks 3 to 6 where things went really well, okay? Where against some awful defenses, he had a great game against the Colts, against Carolina, against Jacksonville, and then he was fine against the Rams. But if you look at the other games, Tennessee, at Houston, at Washington, and at Arizona this past week, I'm trying to figure out the best way to be kind, constructive, moving forward in my thoughts. But guys, everything that Caleb Williams is really, really great at, which is outside the pocket stuff, and in college it was escaping, it doesn't actually matter that much in the NFL on a play-to-play basis. Now, you can have these outlier moments, and we see them, and we saw them, remember, in the preseason where we had that Rome Odunze play that I was like, this is unreal. The problem is that just they don't happen that often. In terms of outside the pocket, which is his superpower, check out these numbers, guys. His completion rate outside the pocket is 36th out of 40 qualifying quarterbacks this year. His catchable target rate is tied for dead last with Tyler Huntley. He has 0 passing touchdowns outside the pocket, and his passer rating is 36, also tied with Tyler Huntley. I'm not going to call him fancy Tyler Huntley, because that would be very, very mean. But I will say...
That's a fancy Pro Bowler.
That's
a good
true.
point.
I'm sorry, Jason. That is a really good point here, because that's what Caleb Williams is aspiring to be. His best moments, though, we would say we get why he was taken first overall. But when it comes to simple reads in the offense and what Shane Waldron has drawn up, this might be the least watchable offense in the league, and even their own players like DJ Moore don't want to watch what's going on the actual field. So turning this to dynasty conversation, Caleb Williams was taken as either the 101 in SuperFlex or people took him in the top 2 or 3 right there with Jaden Daniels. Right now, do you think that Caleb Williams will be a top 12 quarterback in dynasty startups this offseason? Because that's like, he was pushed up to a point where he was like QB7, QB8 in startups. Is he a top 12 quarterback in startups?
I think he will be. Value-wise, average draft position-wise,
He'll get forgiven,
people still
won't he?
Calling their shot. Absolutely,
For sure.
He'll be forgiven. And I don't necessarily think that's wrong either. So the point here is that when you have that kind of Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck, Caleb Williams hype behind you, I mean, Trevor Lawrence was forgiven for far worse for many years, and I think now we're long enough and deep enough into Trevor Lawrence's career where it's like he is who he is and we know who he is. But there were several years where his value was well more than whatever you were going to actually get from his fantasy production. We're going to know quicker next year on Caleb Williams. I think if Caleb Williams comes out in his sophomore season and the first month stinks, he'll start plummeting. But you can hold on to him this entire offseason and still trade him away for massive value because of the hype. And personally, and this is where I'm curious to get to your deep quad film study on Caleb Williams, I still think he's going to be okay. You know, there are players I've watched their rookie season stink where I go, I don't see it. I don't see the path. I don't see how this player gets better. And there are players like Caleb Williams, which I'm watching, and I think he stinks a lot of times, but I still see the path. I see the glimmers of hope. I see the attributes that when the other things, the system around him comes together, the clock play speed comes around. Like I think he's going to put it together still. I never thought that with Bryce Young.
Yes,
Number 1 overall
I
pick,
agree.
halfway through his rookie season, after his rookie season, beginning of this year, it's just like he doesn't have any intangible traits. His trait was supposed to be how accurate and how great he was above the shoulders. He hasn't shown that at all. The traits that you're supposed to see from Caleb Williams, he has shown. And I know the numbers and the metrics when he rolls out and he's outside the pocket are more Tyler Huntley, and they haven't been magical, but individual plays still have. He's still had those plays where he just makes something out of nothing, and you see the glimmer, you see the shining star out there
For sure. And with quarterbacks, like, I want to see, like, if it's bad, I want to see volatility where I've seen weeks where it goes off, and you've seen that against bad defense. So at least we've seen high ceiling outcomes. I think we're not throwing it away like we did Bryce Young. I worry, one of my issues too is just his footwork. Like, I think he's clunkier than he should be for a number 1 overall quarterback of just moving in the pocket. He moves in terms of escaping, but in terms of just his reads and how he sets himself up to throw, I think he trusts himself a lot to make impossible throws where a lot of times I just don't think it's very clean in terms of his mechanics.
How would you feel if going into 2025, Jay Gruden was the head coach?
Jay Gruden?
Yeah.
I haven't
Or John Gruden. Gruden.
Any of the Grudens.
Any Gruden.
Ooh, the Gruden family. I don't think that moves me that much. It's better than
Okay.
Shane Waldron.
I did
though.
mean John, but yeah. No, but that's my point. Is I think part of the issue here is system. I think he's
For
got
sure.
a dumb system in place, and so if Shane Waldron is gone, if Eberflus is gone, and they bring in a head coach with an offensive mindset, right now that would be, I think, the most appealing job on the market.
Ben Johnson.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. I mean, Ben Johnson. There's a handful of people, but I expect next year him to have an offensive system, and it did help Trevor Lawrence. It didn't make him into a superstar, but going from Urban Meyer to an offensive guy did improve him.
We talked a
Yes,
lot about
for
this
sure.
last week with Mike, where like what a quarterback is dropped into as far as not obviously, the O-line and the skill players and all that, but the system and the coaching staff that they're surrounded by. is going to dictate how a player performs oftentimes in year one. It's the hardest position in sports. So much has to go right for it to be a hit as a rookie. And to quote the great Mike Wright, there's a turd in this pool in Chicago, as he noted last week. So yes, I think the Waldron system is detrimental to Caleb right now. You're seeing the pass catchers, you're seeing Jackson Smith and Jigba explode without Waldron in Seattle. So yeah, I think it's a major issue for Caleb and the Bears right now. And just for context, they went into their bye trending up, right? I mean, it was against the Jaguars and all that, but they came out of the bye. They've been terrible. They're averaging 4.3 yards per play. They're 30th in EPA per play since the bye. So they've come out of the bye worse. They did not game plan around Caleb and trying to fix things coming out of the bye. It's been worse.
Yeah. I mean, they lost on Hail Mary, so I know people are going to point that out, but I feel like against Arizona, they just couldn't get anything done. Jason, you have another rookie here that just played on Monday night. Very close to having a different conversation about him. So what'd you see with Xavier Worthy?
Yeah, Xavier Worthy has been a disappointment to me on a film basis. I believed in him a little bit more than what I thought he's been able to accomplish. His opportunity has been outstanding. I mean, you're telling me that you lose Rashee Rice, you lose Hollywood Brown, you lose Juju Smith-Schuster, the replacement. You have been thrust into the starting lineup. You were productive as a true freshman in college. I'm disappointed. And I know it's one play. I don't want to make a bigger deal of it than it is. But it is some deal. It's not gigantic, but the missed touchdown down the sideline in the Monday Night Football game showed kind of a problem to me, a problem that separates really great wide receivers from, very good athletes. He is a very good athlete, but he had a ball where you couldn't be more wide open. It was a guaranteed gimme touchdown, and he ran out of bounds. He was running down the sideline, and to turn around to catch this ball, he didn't think about his body, or he didn't control his body, and I'm pretty sure both feet were out of bounds.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't close. And that is totally excusable in our Peoria, Arizona flag football league. And that is somewhat understandable at a bigger college program. But you're a professional first-round draft pick in the NFL. You can't do that. You can't do that. You practice that stuff. At least you should be. So it's one of those things where I haven't seen the route tree develop the way I want. I haven't seen the hands develop the way I want. I haven't seen the intangible NFL wide receiver type plays develop. If you look at, the completion rate from Patrick Mahomes to all of his wide receivers, not named Xavier Worthy, it's north of 70%. And if you look at his completion rate to Xavier Worthy, it's south of 50%. And so, my film study, I'm just a little bit worried. He's one of those players that there's clearly a path for greatness here tied to Patrick Mahomes going into his second year, stepping up, becoming better. But from the type of player he is, what I thought he already had, he did not come into me as a raw developmental player,
right,
with massive flags like Quentin
John
Johnston.
Ross.
Well, yeah, I mean John
Super
Ross
fast.
certainly, but I thought he was a prospect ready for the NFL, and based on his route tree, his hands, everything I saw in college, and so I don't know how much room he has to go north in those things as a developmental player in the NFL. So I'm just a little bit worried.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I was pretty high on Worthy too coming out, just because, like you said, it wasn't just the athletic testing stuff, which obviously gets you excited, but it was the college production profile, the early production at a big school, first round draft capital, the Chiefs. He checked a lot of the boxes, but looking at what he's done so far, almost all of his production, to Jason's point, has been on manufactured stuff, whether it's jet sweeps, whether it's kind of quick hitters, getting him in motion across the line of scrimmage and hitting him on a quick play, stuff like that. It's not the route tree down the field. The other thing with wide receivers with Pat Mahomes is Mahomes is a trust quarterback. Like, he trusts Kelsey. He trusts DeAndre Hopkins right now. He trusts Justin Watson out there. Like, he will go to the guys that he trusts and
superstars,
and obviously, and eventually those guys that are not on the right side of that are not going to get the targets. So yeah, you're going to get a couple manufactured, touches here and there. You're going to get a couple downfield shots, but you're definitely disappointed, I think, especially if you took him in your rookie draft and you were hoping for a lot more. I agree. I'm pretty disappointed so far.
Yeah, because week 1, the victory laps for Xavier Worthy was 2 touchdowns, instant offense, and it looked awesome. It's like, it slowed down. I think it'll get better. I think they'll figure out ways to use him in the game plan. But when you have 2 veterans jump in, Juju and Hopkins, and demand targets, that does stink, because you'd think like he would be able to come in, and I think his targets per out run's like 20%, 18%. It's like, it's fine. It's fine for a rookie, but also you'd hope that he'd get more as a first-round guy. So, Betz, you have one more name here. Yeah,
Chase Brown, who, in the last week has gone from a timeshare running back with the Bengals to the dude, with Zach Moss now headed to IR most likely. Brown coming off a game where he played 80% of the snaps, 32 touches in that game against Las Vegas. That was the 4th time this season that a running back has had every single touch in their backfield. The other names are the elite guys that you would kind of think would get those touches. So Brown's workload this past week was insane. I did just want to note, though, however, the stat line looks great, and I'm not taking anything away from Chase Brown, but his production as far as a runner, when I watched him, a lot of it came on the plays where it was a spread offense. Now, in Cincy, that's kind of what you're going to get most weeks, so you might say like that's just what you should expect, but 6.1 yards per carry on runs without a loaded box. When it was a stacked box, he averaged under 2.5 yards per carry. So the Bengals need to be running the system that they are, getting the ball spread out, getting 3 or 4 wide receivers on the field, and letting that open up for Chase Brown to succeed. I do think he will have some really nice games moving forward. He gets a tough matchup this week against the Ravens run defense. But if you had Chase Brown and you kind of stashed him for the last year or two, you were hoping that eventually he would take over for Zach Moss and just earn his way into this RB1 role. Now the injury happened, and here we are. I don't know that he's going to play this level or to get this much volume. That would be crazy to project that. But certainly you have to feel excited about Chase Brown if you have him on your roster. And if you were a believer last year in rookie drafts, I know there were some people in Dynasty leagues that really liked him, taken in the 5th round, I think out of Illinois, if I remember correctly.
Yep, that's correct. I think the conversation will be if he keeps the job. They just got Khalil Herbert, but in the offseason, how does he get elevated in Dynasty circles? And usually we get to the point where it's like we're looking around, you get to RB 18, somewhere around there in startups. You're like, well, who's the dude? And I know this guy, has the job right now. It's just really hard for 5th round running backs to maintain jobs long term. There are players that are outliers like Kyron and other names, but looked good. And I think he fits the offense. I think that's my big takeaway so far is they run a lot out of shotgun. Zach Moss was good in shotgun last year, but then he decided he wanted to be Zach Moss this year. So not as good this year. But let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We are at the halfway point, and so we decided we want to do a little bit of reflecting on the first 9 weeks and give out some mid-season Dynasty awards.
Dynasty rankings.
So I think I wanted to give us some unique categories to discuss together. And also, let's intermingle here about Dynasty valuation. When you look at a player, here's what I thought before the season. Here's where they're at now. And just remind ourselves that we play a game that we think we know very well, the outcomes. And then there are things that we had no idea that we were going to be talking about, like the Commanders. Jason, I don't know if you know this. I took the under on the Commanders win total this year. I got punched in the face. It's done.
Oh man. Yeah, that's like taking the over on the Saints. What an idiot.
I would never do that. Ever think about. So, for
you didn't. No, the way you said that was like you did. It was like sarcasm, but you didn't actually take the over on the Saints.
I did last year.
Oh, well, that's fine. Last year was a different story. I'm just saying coming into this year.
It wasn't a different story, though. Right. Down the stretch, Kyle, I think had said this is my favorite bet of the year or something like along those lines. And
okay,
it didn't go well last year either.
You guys, I will say this. You win some, you lose some. You're going to take some L's. You guys actually have a really good hit rate on your DFS and betting podcast. kudos to your work, but that's a big L. That's a big L, you dummy.
Big time.
The
Anyways,
Commanders?
go on, Kyle.
No,
the Saints last year and the the Commanders. The Commanders is one of those where I remember the question being asked. We were going through the divisional previews, and there's always a team that goes from worst to first in the NFL. Always, every single year.
That's picking in the top 10 somewhere.
Right, like they were a crappy team that everyone is expecting to be a top 5 draft pick this coming year that ends first place in their division. And so we asked the question in the offseason, and I remember really digging deep and thinking, like, what is the path for all these different teams? Because you look at the Texans that did it last year with C.J. Stroud coming in, and it was one of those where it's like, if Jaden Daniels, the number 2 overall pick, is really, truly awesome, maybe they could go from worst to first. And I went, nope, no chance. Because you have the Cowboys who are great, you have the Eagles who are great. It's just a tough division, and they don't have a good defense.
The defense is what shocks me.
Apparently, they've got a good defense. Now they've got Marshawn Lattimore added to it, and they've got the best quarterback, not named Lamar Jackson right now.
The defense, that still boggles my mind because Dan Quinn, love him, former Falcons coach, but the system that he tried to implement at first in the beginning of the year was just like, okay, well, this is what it is. They're bad. And all of a sudden they're shutting down teams. They're winning hard games too, like tough games against tough opponents. So
I think some of it, we don't give enough credit to being human beings. Some of what happens for all people in all of life is motivation drives you. And so when you start winning these games and Jaden Daniels, the rookie sensation, is like, hey, maybe we can do this. It adds to the belief of everyone on the roster. It changes how you practice. It changes everything. You kind of see it happening with the Cardinals as well, because both the Commanders and the Cardinals, I don't think they have good enough personnel on defense. They don't have, you don't go up and down the roster and go, oh, they're loaded. But they're playing their hearts out because I think there's some belief in the locker room right now. And that's real. It's not quantifiable. It's not analytical, but it's still a real thing. We're all humans, and we all know the difference between when we're working hard at something, when we're phoning something in, because, people playing for a lousy team, not that they're not working hard, but they might not be working their hardest.
I'm looking at, I can run some numbers on this, but I believe there's only one head coach in the NFL that currently has a backwards hat on at every single game. It's Dan Quinn. And
yeah, the numbers have to bear that out.
Yeah. So I'll run some more. The first category we're going to give is the Dynasty Golden Nugget of the first half. This award is presented by Philip Lindsay because back in the day, he came out of nowhere. And so we're looking for a player that either was on Dynasty waivers at the end of the bench that had a ton of impact last year. Would have been Kyron, Zach Moss, Taysom, and some guy named Puka Nacua. So, Betz, give us your nominee. And by the way, we're not competing against each other. It's just 3 guys you could throw in that category.
Yeah, I went with Jordan Mason, who, for the entire, think back to summer, the entire offseason, when we got to June, July, trying to figure out who's going to be the RB2 in San Francisco, I think they wanted it to be Elijah Mitchell because he had the trust with the system. He'd been there for years. And then he picks up an injury, 2 weeks before camp starts or before the season starts. And all of a sudden, Elijah Mitchell's on IR the week before the season. Then we get the CMC, lingering Achilles stuff. But if you remember before that first Monday night game, everybody, national reporters, local reporters, all of us, thought McCaffrey was playing in that game. It wasn't until right before the game that McCaffrey was ruled out. And it's like, oh, Jordan Mason is going to start. Oh, okay. Jordan Mason's the dude. Oh, he's the actual dude for the next 8-9 weeks. That whole scenario that played out in San Francisco this past offseason was wild. Where if you had Mason, just sitting on your bench, or you picked him up off waiver wires, you got basically a top 12 running back for most of this stretch. He kind of fizzled out the last couple weeks with the shoulder injury, but when he was healthy and getting the touches, dude was great. 4th in the NFL in rushing currently is Jordan Mason. So obviously that changes with the McCaffrey injury coming back, but Jordan Mason, if you had him on waivers or your bench, hard to get much more value off of waiver wires than what Jordan Mason did for you this year.
Yeah, he was one of Mike's nasty boys this summer, and I think that point is really clear. Now we look back and go, well, he was the backup the whole time. It's no, It was really a dart throw if he was going to even be the third or fourth on the team because they took Garendo. So it's one of those, awesome tales of, hey, I scooped this guy up. Hey, maybe there's a 2% chance he's ever relevant. And then you got a ton of production at the beginning of the season. We talked about him spending money on the jugs machine. And we were like, well, how much was this? Like, what does this look like? It was anyway. He came into this season with 83 total carries in his career, and I don't know what he is now. I'm assuming he's still a top 12 running back, somewhere around there. I
haven't looked.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be near there. If he's not, he is the running back. Oh, he's the running back 22, but that's including a bye week.
Yeah. So, J.P. Mason, that's a good pick there. But Jason, you're up next.
Yeah, this isn't quite, as good. I don't think there is a Puka Nacua this year off of waivers who goes to, a top 10 dynasty pick. But there is a rookie this year who was, if he wasn't a waiver wire pickup, he was a third round draft pick or a fourth round draft pick. There was some buzz, during rookie draft season, but certainly, I mean, you just look at the average draft position. He, on average, was undrafted in fantasy leagues. That's Tyrone Tracy Jr., who now looks like he's going to be, I mean, it looks this way. I will caution people for long-term value, the same way that I cautioned everyone about Dameon Pierce. Everyone viewed him way too high, and I talked about if you're a fourth round or later running back, even when you have a great rookie season, usually it gets worse in the future. So if his value seems sky high this offseason and I have Tyrone Tracy, I'll be trading him at that value, knowing that they have not really invested heavily into him, and if things go wrong, he has no guarantee of a future. But for now, Tyrone Tracy, fifth round pick, number 166 overall, he fell in the draft. If you watched the Hard Knocks draft season version with the Giants, they were talking about this guy as someone that they really liked, but that fell for a specific reason. They said older players in the draft, a lot of teams don't want. And it makes sense. This is a player who played 6 years of college. He had a full 4-year degree, I hope, at Iowa. I don't know if he graduated.
I'll look it up.
I mean, at this point, he should have his master's. Then he went. Was it Purdue? Did he play for Purdue? I think that's
Iowa,
where he switched.
then Purdue.
Yeah, but the last 2 years of Purdue were the only 2 years he played running back. So this was a player who transitioned late in his career. He's 210 pounds, runs a 4.43. So he's got the size and speed that you want. He was a wide receiver, so he's got the hands that you want. And the fact that there was a reason why he dropped, that teams weren't excited about his physical attributes, is because, I mean, he's almost 25 years old right now. For a rookie, that is ancient. That's like when guys are getting their second contract, which is another reason why if his value is super high this offseason, I will look to capitalize on that. But for now, you have a guy that you can play. He's getting the majority of work. He has had, double-digit fantasy points 3 of his last 5 games. Devin Singletary has been back for 2 of them. Both games, it has been entirely Tyrone Tracy in the very, 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 very much lead role, and that's even coming back after a concussion. So I think you've found kind of a diamond in the rough, and then there is hope because he's a rookie that it is more of a long-term deal. Because like Jordan Mason and the guy you're about to talk about, they're much bigger diamonds so far this season, but they also are more of expiring assets, whereas maybe Tyrone Tracy, even if he's not good in the future, if you've got him, he is going to be valuable because he will hold value this offseason that you could trade for other assets.
Yes. For a running back to have 3 top 10 performances basically out of nowhere because Singletary got hurt, that's going to hold for a lot of people. And he's been electric. Like he looks like an NFL running back where Jason brought up all the other red flags. The biggest red flag was this dude played wide receiver. So, you can make the Antonio Gibson comparisons all you want, but it was like, is he just a gadget player? Is he just going to be special teams? Whatever. It's hard to figure that out if somebody's in the 5th round, but he did get his degree, Jason. I can confirm that.
From Iowa.
From Purdue. So
see, that's the problem because he had 4 years to get the degree from Iowa. So
Yeah. And before, I mean, technically, I did get the same degree as him. So degree in communication. So me and Tyrone, we are super close together. We're basically the same person.
Yeah, it seems like
Same
it.
athletic profile.
Same athletic profile. Started out as a wide receiver, had to become a running back. But do you agree with that, Betz, where it's like, hey, he's going to hold some value this offseason, but it's like really hard to say this is the dude?
Yeah, it's tough. I think what's interesting about the situation is sometimes you have rookies that get thrust into an opportunity. The old trusted veteran is there, but when the veteran comes back, the rookie kind of fades away just for a short period of time if he's not solidified as the guy. Obviously, that has not happened with Tyrone Tracy. And even what's more interesting is when Tracy was out with a concussion and there was like, oh, is he going to play this past weekend? He didn't practice all that much, and they still went out there and loaded him up as the dude. Some coaching staffs will not do that if you're a rookie and you're missing practice. So it tells you a lot about how they feel about him right now. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons it could go wrong in the future. But I think you probably have, like kind of Jason said, you got this year for value, you got the offseason where we speculate and you have value in trades and all that sort of stuff. But I think there's somewhat of a decent chance that he'll be part of this running back rotation next year. So you kind of have a 1-year window here where it does feel Gibson-ish. And I'm not trying to make that comparison because of the wide receiver transition thing, but like, remember after his rookie year, he had massive value the year after, and then he had an incredible season. Then it fizzled out and it kind of faded away. So I could see that happening with Tyrone Tracy, but obviously where you got him in rookie drafts, you got to be very excited.
Yeah, he had a game with 66 offensive snaps in a game, which is like the fourth most of any running back this year, where they just threw him out there. He just played the whole time. So for a rookie, that's pretty wild to see. Mine is Kareem Hunt. We talked about him earlier, but he's the RB6 in points per game over the last 5 weeks. And I wrote down, it's like none of you even care. It's like you guys don't even care out there. 4 straight games of 20-plus carries. That's the most in his career. And he hasn't had 20 carries in a game since 2020. So they're using him as the dude, as the workhorse guy. And I'm looking in my leagues. I dropped him in a league this summer because the dude was unemployed. And he was unemployed, right? Wasn't that like up until like the second week in September?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was someone that you only hold on to because you have no other roster spots.
Yeah, there's very few players in Dynasty that you hold on to that are unemployed. But, for a while it was Gronk. It was like, hey, he's unemployed, but I'm going to hold on to Gronk. It's a key part of the game that we play. All right, next category is called the most disappointing youngin. That's somebody who's in their first 3 years in the league and they are just not cutting it, or they've had a down season. This award, nobody is better to present this award than N'Keal Harry, who just fell from nowhere. Last year, we talked about Rashad Bateman, Jameson Williams, Dameon Pierce as dudes that just disappointed and didn't really help your squad. Jason?
Yeah, I'm going to go first because we already talked about him. I'm doubling up here on Xavier Worthy. He is quickly, like my red flag is just kind of being raised up the flagpole a little bit, and I'm ready to drop it down, but every week I just feel like I'm notching it up one more because we've seen McCole Hardman, we've seen Sky Moore, we've seen rookies come in and not be Rashee Rice, and so I'm going to be quick to react on this. 0.99 yards per route run, that's not good. That's 19th out of 24 rookies who've seen at least 75 targets. 18% targets per route run, again, not a great metric. So I just am worried, and the reason why, like, he is not N'Keal Harrying, but I had him over Brian Thomas. I hate to admit it, but in my rookies, my final rookie draft rankings, if I was, after the big two, after the running backs and wide receivers, and if you're in SuperFlex quarterbacks, when it came to that question about who's the next wide receiver, I had Xavier Worthy because of the opportunity and quarterback ahead of Brian Thomas. And that's already a done deal. Signed, sealed, delivered. Brian Thomas has a better career than Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, the 1 yards per route run is the metric, the one that we talked about all offseason. And so far, I mean, we're only, 8-9 games in.
He's not there yet, but he's 0.99.
He's almost there.
So he's almost over 1.
Yeah. All right, Betz, give us a name.
This one hurts, man. Sam Laporta, going into the NFL season, was not only drafted as the tight end 1 in redraft leagues, he was largely considered the consensus tight end 1 in Dynasty. And when Jameson Williams has been in the lineup, he has vanished. With JMO in the lineup, 10% target share these last 2 weeks with Williams out because of his suspension, he has seen a 24% target share. He is currently 27th among all tight ends in the league in targets. So the conversation we had all offseason, and I'll own it, like
27th?
27th among tight ends in targets. When we were talking in July, August about Jameson Williams, if you've been listening to the show, you know that I was pretty much out because it had been so long and we had given Jameson Williams so many excuses and all those things. But part of the reason I was out was because I thought, okay, it's going to be Amon-Ra. We know the running backs are going to get their touches. And then, of course, Sam Laporta is going to be involved because he just had one of the best rookie tight end seasons ever. He looks great. He's going to be part of the offense and make a year 2 leap. But it just has happened in reverse, where like Jameson Williams is almost like iced Sam Laporta as far as his opportunity in the offense. So did not see that coming at all. And so I think based off what he did in year 1, we all were expecting some level of regression because he was so efficient in the touchdown department, but nobody saw this coming with Sam Laporta.
It's tough when you have a player that I think as a group, and I know we had this in the Ultimate Draft Kit, Jason, we had him as a bust because of where he's going in redraft. And then when you compare that to Dynasty, you go, oh, he'll be fine long term, it's okay. But like you really do feel the gut punch in Dynasty leagues of his value dropping, and then you look around, you're like, am I going to get 4 targets this week? I mean, we're not asking for a ton, and it's not this player's bad, it's just they've been so good, they haven't really needed him.
There is a quote that I am too lazy to look up right now because it'll take some work to find with all the Dan Campbell quotes. But in this offseason, he was asked about, directly asked about Sam Laporta and like his targets, his involvement in the offense and whether it's going to go up. And his response was, there's a lot of guys that want targets, and Laporta cares about winning games. He's not concerned with getting the ball, so it might go elsewhere, but Sam is not concerned about that. And we just brushed it off because it's like, well, yeah, that's just saying, it's a team game, but it was like, in hindsight, knowing now how they're utilizing him and how they're utilizing their other, wide receivers and targets in the passing game, you go, should we have paid attention to the fact that like the head coach was like, yeah, it's probably not going to go up, but he's going to be fine with it. He's going to be fine with his role this year. I don't know. Maybe that's reading too much into it with hindsight, but that little quote was always in the back of my noggin as we've watched him drop in the pecking order.
I'm ashamed that I could not find that within that 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it.
Well, I feel like that's like my job, but
I know you're usually really good at it. My hope was if I talked long enough, you would have found it. But
come on, Kyle.
I'm probably doing a bad job expressing the quote. I
remember that too, Jason, in the offseason. I mean, Guns Mahoney, he's a straight shooter, dude. I mean, all offseason, this past year, he talked about Jameson Williams, and he's got the opportunity, and he's looked great in camp, and he's done what he's supposed to. And in the previous years, I mean, Kyle has the list of what they were saying about Jameson Williams, right? It was 99% negative, or just like brutally honest of like, he's not where he needs to be. He's not blocking enough, I'm paraphrasing, but kind of where we are with that. So he's been telling us basically for the last 2 years, like kind of what they want to do, but maybe we just weren't listening.
Yeah, I think we need to pay attention when it comes to target stuff, because like when you think of the pie of an offense and when it's being divvied up, like he lived off of touchdowns last year, not so much volume. He didn't even get to 900 receiving yards. We brought that up like, hey, there is room for regression just based on numbers alone. And then when you add in another piece, I made this comment to Betz. I don't know if you feel this way, Jason. I feel like Khalif Raymond might be the fastest person on the planet the last couple of weeks. Like he had 2 touchdowns. He looked so freaking fast, and they used him in the red zone too. But anyway, they're good. In case
they've always got that Ryan Reynolds-y player that's upsetting you. I just wish it was Fireball Jones more.
Wait,
Ryan Reynolds?
Josh
Ryan, yes.
I was like, wait,
yes,
who?
dude. I'll say this: if Ryan Reynolds was out there, he'd be looking good. You know what I'm saying?
Like, man, they got a bunch of good-looking players on the team.
Yes, Josh Reynolds-y guys.
Same guy, really. Josh Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Same last name. Got to be.
I'm going to throw out a name of a player that I had some hope, and I don't know if like I was ignoring everything else, but Christian Watson was a player in year 3 that I thought, okay, this is the year. We get all the offseason talk about, okay, his hamstrings and everything's all fixed. And I was like, I don't know what the medical thing is, but maybe he's fine now. it's kind of clear that in this Packers receiving room, there are alphas that are not named Christian Watson who demand targets. So Dontavian Wicks can catch the ball, but he does command targets. When 3 wide receivers are on the field this year, Wicks has a 32% targets per out run, Jade Reed's at 22%, and Watson's down there with Dobbs and Kraft. The problem with Watson is you're always going to be hoping you get a touchdown, a long touchdown, and if you don't, you're going to be super disappointed. An 11% target share. So my question is, would you ever have any confidence ever starting Christian Watson this year?
No.
Not if everybody's healthy.
That's what sucks.
After a heater, I mean, if he goes and ends up being the target leader in 9 targets, but it's really hard to imagine that. The way that they've utilized him, the way that they've kind of split him and Wicks, I can't fathom him having 3 weeks in a row where he's 9 targets a week leading the team at this point. It's a good name to bring up.
Yeah, he was taken 34th overall, so we just need to remind ourselves this player was taken at the top of the second round. They could have had a lot of other choices. He was an older prospect, and now we're in year 3 where in dynasty circles, he's going to be a player you go, I remember taking him in the first round of my rookie drafts with Sky Moore. You know, that was the choice, Sky Moore or Christian Watson. You go, whoops, who really cares? No one cares about these players anymore. But I held out hope. I think you did too, Betz, for a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was more of like a redraft conversation with Watson where like everybody was just like, I'm out. And the price was way lower. And I was like, okay, maybe we'll take some shots here and see what happens. Because in general, you want to embrace ambiguous situations for fantasy. If you hit on those situations, that's where league winners could potentially come from. This situation is a swing and a miss, obviously. But yeah, I thought there was a chance that maybe he could kind of reestablish himself, but it just does not look like that's the case. And the way that they want to operate as far as their wide receiver committee, I just don't think it's ever going to be the case in the short term.
Let's take a quick break. And
no.
Oh, no.
No break. I found Dan Campbell's quotes from the offseason.
I was so scared. I didn't pee myself, but I could have.
You could have, maybe a couple drops.
I'll hold my pee.
Okay, so I didn't find the tweet, but I found an article from Detroit Sports Nation. I'll read some of it. So Campbell said, I hope it would. This was talking about Sam Laporta. This was in the offseason about the expectations of like, hey, you know, are you going to have a bigger role going into year 2? He said, I hope that would not be negative pressure that would enter his brain. Just knowing him, just because he may not have the same production as he did last year. He literally said he may not have the same production as he did last year. Doesn't mean that he's not going to help us win or that he's not going to be satisfied. Some of that could be just because there aren't the targets, Campbell said. He outlined the shifts in offensive game plan. What if some of those targets go to J-Mo, or some go to Saint, or Gibbs, or Monty, or Brock Wright? So you don't know. For him, I think it's about, quote, whatever job you ask me to do, as long as I'm doing the best I can do and helping the team win, I think he's going to be pretty satisfied. I mean, he came out and told us he's going to be happy with this new role that isn't as good as, you know, he might not put up he literally said he might not put up the production he did last year, but it's going to be okay because if he's helping us win, he's doing the best at his job, he's going to be happy. Oh, man.
He told us.
That feels like something we should have paid more attention to. I mean, we had him as a bust in the UDK, and I didn't draft him anywhere. But at the same time, I don't think we had a verbose conversation about target distribution and the idea that he really steps back in the target pecking order. It was more about efficiency on touchdowns, but yada, yada. Anyways, I have been wanting to find that quote for a while and not doing it because I remember it being just like what I just read, where it felt like, are you telling me he's not going to have the same role?
It's painful because Laporta has 26 targets. Brock Wright has 11 this year. That's not a very big gap for how we perceive their roles.
For someone who was drafted as the tight end 1 in the offseason and the tight end 1 in Dynasty, yeah.
I mean, the real question is who had more touchdowns in their second year in the NFL as a tight end, Dan Campbell or Sam Laporta?
Oh, baby. Okay. Sam Laporta has how many so far?
2.
And how many did
Dan had 3?
Campbell? Okay. All right.
On 13 total targets. Way to go, Dan.
Oh,
big touchdown guy.
touchdowns per route run got to be through the charts.
Yeah, as a 24-year-old on the Giants, Dan was just grinding away. I mean, I think another takeaway is just that if there's anybody who knows the position, it's Dan Campbell. Like, it's different if he's talking about other positions and, target shares. Like, I know what a tight end's supposed to do.
Well, and why change it? This is kind of the issue we've been talking about with, like, Mahomes airing it out more and being a 400 and 400-yard, 5-touchdown machine. They're undefeated. It's working. The Lions are dominating with the game that they are playing right now. Their focus is not getting Sam Laporta more stats. Their focus is getting W's, and they're crushing that.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Jason, I applaud your detective work as someone that loves sleuthing on the internet.
I had to go Google, not Twitter, and I had to go search time range because everything was front loaded. I had to go from May to September 1st, and I found it.
I love it. I love the tactics for there. A couple more categories. We're going to go a little quicker here. The category is called the Mr. Magoo Fantasy QB Award, presented by Blake Bortles. Basically, a quarterback in your SuperFlex league that just all of a sudden just stumbled and bumbled their way into being a legit player for your team. Like at the beginning of the year, you thought, okay, well, I guess I have a quarterback at SuperFlex and they're my QB4, or like no one wanted them. And Jason, you have a guy who was on the list last year who this offseason was the quarterback 26 in Dynasty value. And I don't think Baker Mayfield's
not even a quarterback 2. He was drafted to be your quarterback 3 on average. And right now, he is the quarterback 2. That's Baker Mayfield, or as I call him, Laser Mayfield.
Nice.
Laser. So, yeah, I mean, Baker's been awesome. He really has. Even in the 2 games without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, he has balled out. He has ran. He's thrown multiple touchdowns. He's literally leading the league in passing touchdowns thrown. It doesn't matter if it's Jalen McMillan or he goes down. It's K-Dot, and Baker's playing out of this world right now. I can't imagine, like, looking at just film and watching quarterbacks play, there's not many I think are doing it better than Baker right now. And for him to go from the quarterback 26 to where he's at, to go from a career that seemed like it was over to, like, I mean, I'm a Cardinals fan. We've got number 1 Kyler Murray. It's like, who would I rather have? Like, from an NFL standpoint, I don't know, man. Baker looks like he's back as a franchise leading guy, and I think it sticks. I think he's good. So he's my Mr. Magoo. I don't think it's going to go away.
I think this category can also be rebranded as just like, man, we're so happy for these guys. Like these journeyman quarterbacks. Go Betz.
Yeah, this is the time to talk about Jameis, baby. Jameis is back. He is slinging it. Now, he was basically undrafted in startups. And if you're in a dynasty league, maybe you had him on your bench as like, Watson's been terrible, so maybe they move on at some point. But nobody was expecting anything from Jameis. Yet he comes in his 2 starts plus the game that Watson has left early. He's averaging 6.5 YPA. Watson at 5.3 with a 2.3 touchdown rate. Winston up at 5.1%. So he's been good, man. Now, I will say I am worried about how this looks rest of season in our strength of schedule tool on the site. The Browns have the 3rd hardest remaining. So he's got some pretty brutal matchups coming up, like the Steelers, the Chiefs.
Perfect for Jameis.
Just chuck it,
That's
baby.
perfect because what happens is you start with a pick 6. It's his specialty. Have you seen the amount of dropped interceptions across the league? Who's leading the league in them?
Who is it?
It was like Jameis Winston already has 5 dropped interceptions. Jameis Winston has played 2 games. Man, he is incredible.
He doesn't care. I love Jameis.
Yeah, it's just crazy that you now have a quarterback in a SuperFlex league that you're excited about, where a lot of times you have a backup, you're like, oh gosh, it's Gardner Minshew or whoever that you just kind of have to start. So Jameis is one of those. I have Sam Darnold because 6 months ago he was the quarterback 39 in startups. Right now he's the QB 11 in fantasy points per game, leads the NFL in passing touchdowns inside the 10-yard line. And at this point last year, you remember how Kirk Cousins was just balling out before he had his injury last year in the first 8 games? They have the exact same touchdown to interception ratio. Kirk Cousins last year in Minnesota, Sam Darnold. I have a league where I drafted J.J. McCarthy, and I happen to have Sam Darnold on the same roster. I'm like, oh, I've got this, I'll figure out if I need to bridge Darnold for like a week or two. Eventually it'll be McCarthy. Nope. It's Darnold every single week, and I'm pretty happy as a QB2. So next award is the Running Back Houdini Award, and this one's presented by CEH. It's the Dynasty running back who had their value evaporate the fastest this year. So just out of nowhere, immediately gone. Jason, you go first.
Mine's not immediately gone for sure, but as far as value,
Dead.
Plummet to the ground like an anchor. And I hope we can reel this anchor back in. It's Travis Etienne. He was top 10. Top like 7. I don't know where his ADP was, but he was.
I have RB6.
Yeah, I was going to say somewhere 6 or 7 as the running back in Dynasty leagues. I have him as one of my trifecta of great Dynasty running backs leading me towards a championship, and I don't have him anymore. He's been on my bench. He was on my bench this last week, and thank goodness he was because he did jack squat. He has looked bad. The Jaguars have been bad. Tank Bigsby has looked good. Currently, now I know they were coming off an injury, but Tank clearly was ahead of Travis Etienne this week. So right now, you couldn't trade Travis Etienne for very much. You can't start him for very much. And it's up to him and him alone to pull himself back up out of the water and onto the boat, because he is dragging Dynasty teams down right now. And for a guy who, first round running back who was the workhorse last year, so highly touted, to just evaporate is incredible.
Do you
and they
think
picked up
it's
his 5th year
crazy?
option.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. That sounds crazy to me. Like in general, just for a running back, like I don't think it's essential. But then to kind of see that, like, they talked all offseason, we want to get Bigsby involved. We kind of laughed at it. We're like, oh, he was so bad last year. Oh, wait, he's actually good. He's better than we thought. And now it's like you have this player for another year, Etienne, and it kind of feels like a glorified PPR back. Like he's just getting receptions and inefficient on the ground on a bad team. It just feels like a dumb call.
Yeah, I think they're not a great franchise. I mean, they also made Trevor Lawrence the highest when they signed him. Not like I expected them to sign him. Trevor Lawrence should be signed. Trevor Lawrence is an average NFL quarterback. They made him the highest paid NFL quarterback of all time when they signed him. That's absurd. He did not deserve that. So them picking up a 5th year option for a running back that they don't really need doesn't shock me.
Not the best organization. And Gabe Davis, they threw a bunch of money at Gabe Davis just because they had money. They had to.
Well, and they need that one. At least they needed a wide receiver, and they didn't know how the draft would come. They didn't have Brian Thomas Jr. yet, but hey, they made a great pick there.
That's true. Betz, you got a name?
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with Tyrone Tracy. I'm going to throw out Devin Singletary, who, GroinIndex.com.
My guy evaporated. Your guy.
He got him. GroinIndex.com got him. Before he was on that website, he had 71% of the snaps, almost 17 opportunities per game. Since coming off the injury, he lost his job. 21% of the snaps, 39%, 28%, averaging 6 opportunities per game the last 3 weeks. So it's wild because like he and Brian Daboll had that connection, right? Going back to Buffalo, he was trusted. It was like kind of like he probably will hold the job even when he comes back from injury, but it has not happened. So yeah, Devin Singletary went from like a fine RB2 start to no value in a matter of 3 weeks.
Yeah, Singletary and then the name I have, Xavier White, are two names that in redraft, but also like in Dynasty, if you're like, oh, I've got a 0 RB team, I'll just figure it out. I've got a bunch of RB2s. These guys are the perfect example of players that we kind of all cast into RB2ville. And then you start adding up the numbers. You're like, I think I have 25 players in that kind of RB2 spot. When reality is it's like, no, there's 12 of them there. And a lot of them are not going to work out and evaporate. So Xavier White, I looked this up 6 months ago. In Dynasty startups, he was the RB20 in startups. Xavier White, who had those 4 games at the end of the season. Remember that? Where it's like he got a ton of work. We're like, is he going to be good? And I think it's hilarious that he's basically this year's Alexander Madison, even though Madison's on his team. And so it's been Madison and Abdullah as the guys overtaking him. I mean, White got in the end zone this past week, but at the end of the day, very small sample size that you had to make a call on Zamir White, and he's definitely a player that he was in our bust list as well, but I think you just look at the overall environment of the team, it didn't look great. They just fired Luke Getsy.
He was an easy one, man.
I thought so too, but I didn't want to say I told you so. It just felt like you're really trying to thread the needle of a player that 4th round on a bad team with a small sample size.
Yeah, you don't always get it right, and you don't always have the confidence in the ones you get right or you don't get right, but I feel like universally we knew he wasn't going to work out. We were saying things like, we don't even know how it's not going to work out, but we know it's not. It just it doesn't ever work out for a player in his position at his age, his years in the NFL, his team. There was no path forward for him to make sense, and so that's good because I think he hasn't hurt a lot of people. I mean, he's hurt everybody. Every league has been hurt by him. Hopefully, it's just not our listeners' leagues.
All right, we're gonna do one more segment real quick.
Take it or leave it.
We're at the halfway point, and we did this last year, and I want us to take 1 second to give a second half Dynasty hot take. This is something that maybe is a little wild out there, or maybe you're just saying hey, I'm calling my shot here. Betz, you have a good one here. I know you're trying to trade for this player, and I'm telling you no.
Dang it. My bold prediction here is that George Pickens is a top 12 fantasy wide receiver the rest of the season. Now, they did this trade for Mike Williams. However, Mike Williams is averaging 0.77 yards per route run. So I'm not really worried about it. I think George Pickens is going to be the alpha and continue to be in this offense in the passing game. His peripherals are off the charts. 2.51 yards per route run. That's 8th best among all wide receivers with 30-plus targets. He's being targeted on 26% of his routes. He's top 10 in open score. He's been good. And the schedule is beautiful coming up here. Gets games against Washington, Baltimore twice, Cincy, Cleveland twice, potential shootout with Philly. It's a really good setup here for George Pickens down the stretch.
All right, Jason.
I could make this bolder than it is. It might sound bold on face value. It's not bold. My prediction is Bo Nix is a top 10 quarterback rest of season. Now, the reason that's not bold is because Bo Nix is the quarterback 10 already, and he's getting better. He started slow. He runs the ball enough. He runs this offense well. His downfield passing is starting to connect with Cortland Sutton. He's still missing plays. He missed 3 touchdowns this last week. He missed, 3 open touchdowns. One to my boy Franklin, one to Cortland Sutton, and one to little Jordan Humphreys. His rushing utilization with this system is going to work. And so a bolder prediction than just him being a top 10 fantasy quarterback rest of the season, he's going to be a franchise quarterback. He's going to succeed, and we'll be talking about him 8 years from now. There's very little doubt in my mind that he's going to succeed in the NFL. And that for a guy who was very maligned, people saying he shouldn't even be a first-round draft pick, mocking the Broncos for where he was selected. I think that the guy has it between the ears.
Yes.
And he's got it in the legs. He is so much more mobile than what he's given credit for. And so I think he's legit. I think he's going to figure it out. And over time, as a dynasty asset, they're only going to get him more and more weapons as they continue to pay less and less for Russell Wilson.
As they say, they've got it in the ears, they've got it in the legs.
Yeah.
Those are the two check. But my biggest thought, though, Jason, too, is if I compare him to Caleb Williams, the decisiveness and just he looks clean when he's making his decisions compared to Caleb Williams, where it's like Caleb Williams is fun and erratic, but it's also so chaotic to the point where you're going, I don't know if we're seeing the same things on the field.
I still think at least 65% of that is scheme. Bo Nix is scheme.
Okay.
Here's the play. Here's the read. Go. Play in the system. Caleb Williams is these guys are going to run those routes. Go.
Turn in that pool, man.
That's how I feel.
It's a Waldron. Got a Waldron problem. All right, mine's not super hot, but I do think we see some Blake Corum because at this rate, there is no way that Kyron Williams will be alive on an NFL football field. Last week, 76 of 77 snaps. And then you look at the rest of the games this year. He has 4 of the top 6 snapped percentage games in the NFL of a running back. You just can't hold up. I mean, I was shocked this past week when they were going to overtime. They're like, I'm not taking this dude off the field at all. So I think Blake Corum is a player that we've seen. Sean McVay, when he gets a running back, he uses that one running back. And I think that Blake Corum can have. So maybe we haven't seen it yet, but their schedule also is super nice down the stretch.
So your bold prediction is that Kyren Williams is going to get injured. That is your bold prediction.
I never said that.
You basically
said it.
Once.
Is your bold prediction that Blake Corum is going to overtake Kyren Williams?
He will definitely step in if Kyren is out, for sure.
No. Is he going to overtake Kyren Williams on the field while Kyren Williams is healthy and active?
No.
Not even close. So your bold prediction is Kyren Williams gets injured, which, to be fair, you're not rooting for it.
No.
I actually think
I
it's
have
a
him in
smart
Dynasty.
It's a smart, bold prediction. This is an undersized back who is utilized like he's Derrick Henry, and they had an early bye week. Like he gets no rest from here on out. And so to make it the full length of the season, which he couldn't do last year, yeah, protect yourselves.
Yeah, I have Kyren in Dynasty. I hope that he kills it. I just know that when it comes to human beings on the football field, this is insane usage so far. Like he's going to get hurt. I thought about the other day figuring out the numbers, Betz, of like once running backs have a certain number of snaps, what's going to happen. But
this is
I'm not trying to predict.
This is like, we don't see this ever. Sean McVay is a
Christian
psycho.
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey is like the only one you ever see with this kind of utilization. And sometimes Christian McCaffrey makes it through the season, and sometimes he hasn't started until week 10.
Yeah. I forget the stat, but there was a year and a half stretch where McCaffrey missed like, I don't know, 50 snaps or something on the season. Just something stupid, like Kate Otten levels of snaps. Before we close out, Jason, I just wanted you to let the people know about the app that is live right now.
Yes, it's awesome. So the Fantasy Footballers app, you can search it right now. It's live on the iOS App Store. It is also, we have a Fantasy Footballers app on Android as well, but the new version will be coming out in a couple days. So get it and refresh. But the new version of the Fantasy Footballers app, it has all of our tools in it. All the Foot Clan premium in-season stuff, whether that's help in your waiver wire pickups specific to your leagues, whether that is the spot start tool that you can use Saturday night, Sunday morning to see if there is a better start available than who's currently in your lineup for you for free in your league. The lineup optimizer to make sure not only are you putting the best players in, and if you're managing a bunch of leagues to be able to see it easily, clearly, obvious. But it'll even tell you, hey, make sure you put this guy in your flex and this guy in your running back slot because of the time of day that these guys are playing. All of them. Strength of schedule, Stream Finder, all the tools are now finally available in the app. We've been working on it for years. The feedback has been great. We're going to keep working on it. It is a free app for all of our articles, all of our rankings. A lot of stuff in there is free, but if you join us at jointhefoot.com, all of the premium tools are now in the app. So if you're already a member, we thank you, and now we have you covered with an app version so that you don't have to go to the computer or be in web for mobile. It's fully native now.
Yeah, and all the research that we do for the show when we talk about strength of schedule, like I'm looking at stuff that we use from the app. Like it's perfect that, if you want to get prepared for the rest of the season, especially the stretch run,
it's
the way
really
to do
what's great about our tools is like we're not a giant media company making a tool to sell to people. We are fantasy football addicts making tools that I want for me to win and to be better. We're also competitive. We're just making what we think helps us win, and then we have these tools for our community. So I think it's kind of what sets us apart. Our tools are they're not made for fluff. They're made to win championships.
Yeah. A lot of stuff is you guys sitting around the office or just years of conversations like, I wish I had this. We should make this. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Dynasty Podcast. Go to fantasyfootballers.com if you want to check that out, and we'll talk to you again next week. Goodbye.
Thanks Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.